Welcome to True Health Tuesdays, and the truth will set you free. Okay, today we're going to put this in a little bit different format. Normally, and if you've seen any one of our over 700 health talks, they're laid out exactly the same, where we talk about a disease or condition or something that's affecting people, stupid, ridiculous interventions, okay, what's really going on, and what the real solution is. Okay, so that's like every talk, so you don't need to watch any more. Okay. So this is going to be laid out a little bit different, because I was reading an article, and every week I'll read something and it's just like, my God, this is insane. You know, so we're going to take a current topic, put a little bit of data there, and then open it up for questions and answers. So while I'm going through this, if you're live here or live on the internet, be thinking about questions, because, well, tonight it's talking about the dangers of mixing medications. And this is one of the things that I'll tell everyone, if you're taking multiple pharmaceuticals, don't take two together. And you know what I'll get? Well, my doctor didn't tell me that. Okay, well, how brilliant is he? Okay, so when we look at this, now we're talking the right drug at the right time in the right dosage. According to the Journal of the American Medical Association, now this was, 20 years ago, they said over 100,000 people die. A little later statistics, they say about 28,000. Now this is more than the 5 times the number of people killed by overdosing on prescription pain relievers or heroin. 5 times. So this is the right drug at the right dosage for the right condition is killing more people every day. I mean, every year, 5 times the amount. Okay, so we're talking about 2,500 people a week dying from the right drug at the right time and the right dosage. Now, the average person over 60 has taken 12 different prescriptions. The most I've ever seen is 32 prescriptions. And so sometimes I'll say, look, man, don't take 2 drugs together, separate them by at least half hour to an hour, drink a full glass of water in between. And so I'll get this, gee, doctor, not enough hours in the day. And it's insane. So then I come across this article. 24-year-old young man at a time died suddenly from taking anxiety medication with pain reliever. Now, I have a 24-year-old son. So when I see this, I think, holy shit. What if that was my Danny? And it was just really impactful. And so, when I'm looking at this, 2,500 people a week. I'm looking at this, 106,000, 128,000 people. I'm not personally involved. Okay, but then I see this one guy. And Stalin, and this isn't exactly the same quote because you can see it in urban legend stuff, but the death of one man is a tragedy and million deaths are a statistic. And so when you see that 106,000, you see this 100,000, you see these big numbers, it doesn't boil it down to that one person, but this article did. It did for me. Now, this is where you can get it. It's off of Bloomberg. But now this is an incident that happened 7 years ago. It's happened in 2010. And, why are we just hearing about it now? I don't know, and I don't know why it affected me so. But this is the story. I recommend you going in there and reading it. But we're talking, John Neighbors spoke to his son about 30 minutes after midnight on March 15, 2010. Now, 24-year-old kid had trouble sleeping, had knee pain, and the next day he found him dead in his room. And there were some medicine bottles there, but what was interesting, he didn't overdose. The kid wanted to live. Okay, now he had sleep problems, anxiety, things like that. And he was struggling with an addiction, but he was clean and sober now. He was clean and sober for a couple of months. Now, he had knee pain, so they gave him methadone because they didn't want him addicted to opiates. So methadone was safer for somebody that has a history of addiction. Then he was anxiety and stressed, so they gave him Seroquel. And these are all properly prescribed drugs for the right condition and the right reason at the right time. Now they said he had heart failure, 24-year-old kid. Now the medical examiner goes in and examines the guy and says, look, there's no foul play here, no overdose, no signs of, this is the right drug at the right time. Now, this was a really good article published out of the Journal of Law and Medicine and Ethics, Institutional Corruption of Pharmaceuticals and the Myth of Safe and Effective Drugs. The myth of safe and effective drugs. Now, they're talking a largely hidden epidemic of side effects from drugs that have few offsetting benefits. Right? Have you heard on the news prescription opiates, Oxycontin, all of these drugs that are at epidemic proportion that are wiping out a good hunk of our population. The pharmaceutical industry has corrupted the practice of medicine throughout its influence over what drugs are developed and how they are tested and how medical knowledge is created. Now, the problem, and this goes back to the article, they knew, AstraZeneca, the maker of the Seroquel, knew that there was a problem if you mix this with methadone. Okay, I don't know if they tested it with every drug that all of these people are going to take. Because think of this, if we have 10 people here, and each person takes a Tylenol, yes, that is the most properly prescribed drug in America. Yes, it is the deadliest drug in America. But if we give one drug to 10 people, are they going to have the exact same effect?
No.
No, of course not. What if we give an antacid and Tylenol? What if we give an antacid, Tylenol, and a muscle relaxant? What do we give? Do you understand how it gets exponentially stupid? Okay, so after this child died, this 24-year-old kid died, then they put a warning label on it. Now, this former sales representative, Alison Zayas, suing AstraZeneca on behalf of the U.S. government, okay, in 27 states. So she's suing them. Now so they have a death and they're being sued. Is that appropriate response for a company that makes a dangerous product? Yeah. You can't do that with vaccines. Now, even though that the Supreme Court says vaccines are unavoidably unsafe, that's a product manufactured by the same industry that you cannot sue if your child's been killed or if they even screw up and make a bad product. But this one, so you go up to the spokesperson and they say, look, yeah, he died at the right dosage, at the right level, for the right condition. We acted totally responsible. We gave all the information to the Food and Drug Administration before the drug's approval, before it came to the market. In fact, to inform appropriate labeling and to assist physicians in making informed benefit-risk decisions for the individual patients. How does a doctor do that? How does a doctor do that? What kind of crystal ball? What kind of inner knowledge do you have to say, well, this person's going to metabolize this drug in a healthy fashion, and they're going to be detoxing from it. This person may have a challenge, but since this person's taken an antacid, do you understand? It's impossible. Impossible. And of course, they believe that all applicable laws were followed, and the allegations of the lawsuit were without merit. 106,000 people a year, 2,500 people a week are dying from this type of product. Okay, now AstraZeneca paid more than $1 billion, okay, in settlements. Now this, when you're talking Seroquel, this is one of the world's most popular drugs at the time. Big selling, big money maker. Now, they claim in a very competitive market, so they targeted the salespeople, pain clinics, addiction centers to sell this drug. And so, we got this great product. It's really good. It can kill people, but let's target the clinics. The young 24-year-old guy, okay, he was excited about life. Okay, he had trouble sleeping. He had knee pain. And no one's talking about if he had, antibiotic use before, if he had a leaky gut, if he had a healthy digestive tract. Nobody's asking the real questions because the doctors are hamstrung now. They can't ask real questions. If you have high blood pressure, they have to follow the standards of care, the protocol. And he was raised in that drug environment. Now, when we think of this young kid with knee pain, and you're going to take methadone? Why not take a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory like Advil, Motrin, and Aleve? I know what you're thinking about. You're thinking, well, doesn't that damage the kidneys and increase heart failure? Yes, those drugs do. They're called non-steroidal anti-inflammatories. We could do a whole talk on that. Okay, and those type of drugs destroy joint cartilage. And this is common. So this kid was raised in this drug environment that you have a symptom, you take a drug. Now, problems for sleep and anxiety. Here's the psychotic thing about the medical world. If you have anxiety or a stress, and one of the symptoms is poor sleep patterns, then you could be labeled with depression and given an antidepressant. However, if you have trouble sleeping, you are going to be in a stress state and you are going to have anxiety and depression. Okay, do you understand that? So no one's looking at the lack of sleep or the physical, chemical, or emotional stress load that's putting this human being in this stress state and saying, wow, we have to really look at this. We know you got physical stress, we know you got knee pain, we know you got anxiety and stress. Okay, we should be actually solving the problem. No, man, I'm going to give you this drug and this drug. And that's the tough part. Now here's a patient, I mean, way older than 24 years old, and he came in with high blood pressure, knee pain, headaches, anxiety, sleep problems. I mean, I think he was 58, and 58 is really young. I'm 57. I'll be 58 in 4 months. Okay, so I mean, here's a young kid too. But what do you think he was taking? He was taking the beta blocker, okay? He was taking the non-steroidal anti-inflammatories. He was taking a sleep medication, okay? I think it was Lunesta. I mean, he's taken anxiety medications. I forget what he was taking, but I think it was a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor like Prozac or something. So he was taking these. Does the doctor know how these are going to interact in his metabolic state? No. The doctors don't know. They haven't a clue. They haven't a clue. I mean, this gal here, and this is an old one. This is like 10 years old when this patient came in. She was spending $1,000 a month for her medications. Did it make her healthy? Did it correct fibromyalgia? Survey says? Sir, this is not a comedy, but it should be. It's like, my God, this is sick. You know, this is like watching Chevy Chase fall and hit his head. I mean, this is like craziness. How could you think that giving someone who's in pain and hurting a toxic chemical that can negatively affect their body to cover up symptoms? And this is it. Here's actually a real patient. Okay, served in the military, and he comes in, multiple antidepressants, multiple anti-anxiety medications, antibiotics. I mean, forget the vaccines that you get when you serve in the military. I mean, this guy was in deep trouble. He was in a stress state. So what's the solution? For one, realize that the system is not just broken, it's psychotic. It's psychotic and ignorant. We got two choices. The people that are passing out these drugs, that's killing over 100,000 people a year, we got two choices. Either they're ignorant or evil, and ignorant is the best choice. You get a doctor out there prescribing a drug for pain or prescribing a drug for anxiety or high blood pressure. Okay, and they're not looking at the cause, because medication short term can save a life. They can save a life, by God. But if you take them long term, they develop toxic effect, and they're killing more people than they're helping. You understand? I mean, this is just insane. How about you get a 24-year-old kid, anxiety, stress, and depression, and poor sleep patterns. Okay, somebody with a history of addiction, and I could show you a dozen patients like this. So what do? We talk about the physical, chemical, emotional stress. We get their nervous system checked. We get them on our organic plant-based diet. Why? Because it works. Okay, your body is going to rebuilding itself. This stuff, you're talking anti-inflammatory. Organic plant-based foods. Start juicing this. Juice the vegetables, blend the fruits. What's your body going to be like when you put healthy nutrients in there? All of that stuff is anti-inflammatory. It's going to help. What about cures for insomnia when we talk about sleep restrictive therapy? We're not talking about drugging someone. We're talking about hitting the reset button on the brain. We've got several hours that we're talking about sleep. What about prayer and meditation? Okay, neurolinguistic programming, actually changing the way the brain is built. So respecting the body, looking at the body as self-healing and self-regulating. I mean, what if somebody has a hiatal hernia? Is that a cause for giving more antacids? Or should you look at the tone of the diaphragm? Oh, I know, you know, because you used to have it, you know, there's one know-it-all in every crowd. Okay, so when we talk about this, you know, we're talking nerve supply, regular exercise. This is how the doctor of the future is going to work. Where do drugs come in here? Oh, we found some great nerve pressure. I mean, this is putting you in a stress state. That's why I'm going to give you this anxiety medication, and I'm not going to do anything to fix it. Or yeah, you don't exercise, so your cholesterol is up and you have anxiety, so I'm going to give you this pill. I'm not going to tell you that a half-hour walk in a day has been shown to increase telomere length, help with brain function, reverse dementia and anxiety, and all you got to do is get outside and walk. I'm not going to tell you about the multiple studies on fresh fruits and vegetables that reduce cardiovascular disease. Okay? Eat right. I mean, the Ayurvedic sayings that say, look, you know, if your diet is poor, medicine is of no good. If your diet is good, medicine is of no need. I know, they were right. Sleep. This is a skill. You can teach how to get deep sleep. You don't need to be insomniac anymore in prayer and meditation. I mean, it just makes sense. For reprogramming the brain, if anyone's got anxiety, I'd check out our emotional freedom zone. I mean, you gotta find a real solution because you can reprogram the brain. Now this stuff, this was an article back in 1905, and I gave you a copy of this. Okay, they were having a problem in 1905 with drugs. Okay, now all of this stuff that we have, we've got Extreme Health Academy, that's coming up in January, so this is going to be more education. And we got our site. We got a whole article on there about anxiety, stress, and depression that's absolutely vital to take charge of it. So if you do have anxiety and depression, find the problem. Does that make sense? Okay, now, any questions? I know, like that? Yes, sir.
How do doctors, medical doctors, feel about what you're talking about?
Let's ask. How do you feel about how I'm talking about this? Wait, hold on. We got a mic gal. No, he's already done. You're doing good, Anna.
I agree with what you're saying, but the other doctors do not. They go by standard practice.
Okay, so how do medical doctors feel about it? This one makes sense because he's a real doctor. Okay, he's not hamstrung by a pharmaceutical industry or by standards of care. The most frustrating thing, when you look at WebMD, they came out with an article 2 days ago that talks about how 50% of pediatricians are unhappy with their practice, how 30% of general MDs are unhappy with their clinical practice. And why would that be? You give a drug, and then what are you following the patient? Are they getting healthier? Raise your hand if you've ever taken a pharmaceutical product, you recovered from a disease, you feel great, and you've got your life back. Okay, this is when I wish I had one of those like cricket things. You can't see the audience, but there's nobody raising their hand. Okay, I'm not going to ask about how many people have taken a drug and had a negative reaction. Okay, all you're seeing is a bunch, I know, we'll put your hand down. So when you look at this, they're toxic chemicals that we don't know how they can interact. So it's a crazy practice. So you got these doctors that they go through medical school. Some of them want to make a good living. I think most of them really want to help people. But they're caught in a system that's completely insane. They don't have a way in their clinical practice for factoring in the outcome of the patient. I mean, if you had a medical doctor working at a clinic and people coming in with blood pressure, cholesterol, antacids, I mean, sleep medications, all these people, And they're sitting him down and they're saying, look, man, we got to check your physical, chemical, emotional stress load out. Okay, we're going to get you off the type 2 diabetes medications in about 45 days. Your blood pressure is going to normalize, so we're going to get you off of those drugs in about 2 to 3 weeks. We're going to help your digestion, so you're not going to need that drug, that antacid, that proton pump inhibitor that's going to increase esophageal cancer and weaken your body's heart and weaken your immune system. Do you understand? So you're going to have a doctor that's going to say, look, we're going to change your physiology, not cover it up. Okay, and the doctor's honest to God. A lot of them like this guy. He's smart. He would give you that advice, okay, to strengthen the body and not drug it. Yeah, but, eventually. So if your doctor's not doing that, fire him. Eventually, they're going to have trouble paying their student loans, okay, or have trouble making the car payment, and they're going to have to learn how to work better. If you had a mechanic that specializes in fixing cars and 106,000 of these cars crash, he would probably learn how to fix cars better. Okay? Yeah, and if not, we don't give him any work. Next question. Yes, sir.
Is there ever a time when you feel as if a pill or a drug is necessary?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Good God, man, we're talking life-saving. Okay, a good example. I'm walking across the street, I'm hit by a car, both my legs are broken, my sternum's fractured, my skull's fractured, my front teeth are knocked out, heart's bruised and liver bruised. I get to the hospital, okay, and I'm like not doing good. They check me out, they keep me alive. They put all these fluids in me. They gave me morphine, thank God. I would have been driven insane. And in that short-term emergency, that's what it's for. Let's say you have a massive jungle infection that's weakening your body and you can't strengthen the immune system. That's when it's appropriate. You give it an antibiotic for an ear infection, you're going to kill the kid. You're going to cause a leaky gut, weaken his immune system and everything else. If you get an antibiotic for the flu, for each antibiotic, your risk of cancer increases. So the overuse of this is insane. So short term, to keep the person alive, it's absolutely essential, except what would that do to the market? Yeah, you're not talking, 300 million customers. You're not talking, because they just made up the new blood pressure number. Well, actually not everyone, because some people are still going with the Joint National Committee 8. Okay, now, American Heart Association made up their own number because they want half of all Americans now qualify for blood pressure drugs. That's insane. Any questions on the internet?
So what are your thoughts on antibiotics?
Antibiotics, absolutely essential. Essential. If you have a specific infection and your immune system's weakened. So what you got to do, you have to do a culture. Then you have to do a sensitivity test. Okay, and then, I know that takes around 48 hours. Okay, and then, if your immune system is so weakened, then it's absolutely appropriate to take a short course of an antibiotic. And I'm talking like death's door. Why don't they do that? What do you think happens to most people within 48 hours? They get better. They'd get better. Yeah, they would get better because, even Fleming, who came up with penicillin, it took him a few years to convince the world that this poisonous mold would be really effective for bacterial infections, and particularly staph. When it first came out, I think it was effective in like over 80% of the cases, but within 10 years, it went down to about 30% of the cases. I think 10, 15 years. And he said, be careful, bacteria are very adaptive. Okay, and the more and more and more that we use this, the stronger and stronger and stronger they're gonna get. So it's best to strengthen the immune system. Yes, sir.
What are some ways to get probiotics in your system?
Okay, what are some ways to get probiotics in the system?
What are some examples of good probiotics?
Okay, fermented foods are fantastic. Bacteria-containing foods. Kombucha, or kombucha. Yeah, I always mispronounce that. Kefir, although we call it kefir. I know I've been mispronouncing it for 40 years. Okay, so, but when you look at this, the whole environment that we live in has bacteria. Some people say your DNA is 50% viral. Okay, so we have an intimate relationship with bacteria, funguses, viruses, yeast, everything. So this bacteria phobia is wiping people out. That's why, like, you know, Purell is everywhere, Clorox is everywhere. You're killing a lot of stuff, except that's also making it a competitive environment. You have an ecosystem on your skin, you got an ecosystem in your body, and you need that. That's why organic foods are so fantastic, because they do have healthy bacteria on them. Yeah, so just in your natural food sources, that would be ideal. Yes, sir.
All right, I understand, or I believe, that if your pH is 7, then your immune system is functioning properly. Is that right?
Well, it kind of depends on where the pH you're looking at. If your pH is 7, now that's going to be different for sweat, urine, saliva, everything. Okay, and your pH is going to be regulated, because you die if you go 1 point above or 1 point below on your standard the physiology of your body.
On the blood.
On the blood. Yeah, so it's like, I think 7.35 to 7.4. Yeah, so we're talking a very, very narrow range. In order to keep that range, because your body is really, it has to function at a certain accurate pH, respiration has to increase. So you can get rid of the acid of carbon dioxide. Perspiration has to increase. Urination has to increase or decrease or change. Heart rate has to increase or decrease to maintain that pH. So it's not really, you got to check your saliva, blood, or urine. Those are good indicators, but your body is self-regulating. Like, you would never go home and check your Chihuahua for its pH.
My
No.
Chihuahua is a stuffed animal. I don't.
You're looking at my pet over there, okay? Yeah, okay. So what I mean is, you're not going to worry about your dog's pH.
Right.
Okay, you're not going to check your goldfish for its pH. Okay, they're self-healing and self-regulating. Okay, just like all animal species on the planet, what you're looking at now is the sickest animal species the world's ever seen. Okay, with 1 in 2 of our offspring have a chronic illness or disease. And instead of giving them all the nutrients that they need in sleep and purpose and healthy adaptive materials, so they got a strong nervous system, they've got a strong family, they've got strong food, they've got everything that you need to survive on this planet, we're not doing that. We're raising a toxic, sick, deficient society. You know, and then we're telling them that you're sick and deficient, and you need drugs, and you need vaccines, and you need our processed food in order to survive on this planet. And that's a big lie. And they've been lying for over 100 years. Yep. Yes, ma'am.
What are your thoughts on mental health issues medication?
What are my thoughts on mental health education medications?
On medication.
Medications. Yeah. Well, if you look at the most popular, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, okay, that's what they're supposed to do. Then you look at the clinical pharmacology, it says mechanism of action is unknown. Then you look at the black box warning that says it can increase suicide, suicidality, and suicidal thoughts, okay? And then it has to be balanced with the risk benefit. Hi, I know you're depressed. I'm going to give you a drug that may increase suicide. So, do you understand? It's psychotic. Okay, now if you look at some of the medications or therapies used to change how the brain works, okay, like omega-3s, and look at orthomolecular psychiatry. This was started by Linus Pauling. He would get severe schizophrenics back functioning in the streets by giving them the appropriate nutrients. He also did occasionally electroconvulsive therapy, which is you're just passing electricity through the head. One flew over the cuckoo's nest. Yeah, so that I wouldn't recommend. We actually had one patient do that, and it just burned her brain. Okay, my family said that I used to come here and you made me feel better. It's like, holy. Yes, dear, you used to come here. I mean, that's frightening. But you can get people with appropriate nutrients and find out the deficiencies. And you can actually reprogram the brain. Some people with some mental disorders are so ingrained that they're going to need further help. But the fact that we're given antidepressants for trauma is insane. The best example I had was about 10 years ago. A 16-year-old kid comes in, and she's got coming to see me for headaches, and she's living with her aunt and uncle because both of her parents were killed, and she was prescribed an antidepressant. I said, "Hon, you don't have a medical condition, you got life." You know, and we get stronger and more wizened about life by experiencing it, not drugging ourselves. Does that make sense? Yes, sir.
Do you think that doctors will ever be required to take nutritional courses? And if they do, they'll actually use them in their practice?
Okay, I need like about 10 microphones, and I need something that throws. Anna, you're doing the best job as you can with the microphone. God bless you. I love you, dear. Okay. Do I think that medical doctors will be eventually required to take nutritional courses? Yeah, because the economy is going to trash. I mean, we figure by 2025, there's a giant, massive tsunami of economic drain. It's called the autistic tsunami. By 2025, the cost of autism will be $1 trillion a year, okay, in America. So this will wipe out the economy. I mean, forget Social Security, forget retirement funds, forget anything. We're not talking about the petrodollar going down or Deutsche Bank falling or any of that stuff that's coming down the line. We get a great talk in January about that. It's gonna be really cool. No, but I'm gonna show you how to survive. Okay, so it'll be cool. But when you talk about the current system is so absolutely dysfunctional that they have to change. There's no, I mean, there's still going to be people that are going to go along and say, look, please, just give me the drugs, okay, and they're completely blind of what happened to their parents or grandparents, and people are waking up. I mean, when you go to one of those assisted living centers, and you see these guys in their 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, and they're just drooling on themselves. And you start to think, well, man, John Adams, 90. We got these presidents in their 80s, and they're healthy, vital, everything in the past. So it's not because we're living longer, we're drugging the heck out of people and they're just sick. We shouldn't end up like that. Yeah, we're going to also do a series of studies where we're going to be interviewing octogenarians, people that are 80 and 90 years old that are healthy. I'm talking windsurfers, kite surfers. I mean, we're talking very, very healthy, vital people throughout their whole life. I know you're thinking they got a good pharmacist. No, dear. You showed up late. I'm just going to walk you through it. No, they actually do this stuff. They do like nutrition and nerve supply and purpose. I mean, it's vital. It's psychotic. That's why the medical doctors have to change. The entire medical system has to change. I mean, forced medical procedures without informed consent, how long is that going to go on? It'll change. Yes, ma'am.
Nutrition-wise, how do you explain that vitamin C intravenous is bringing back people that were in the coma? When I actually believe that you should have the whole vitamin C that you now get, that had all the components of, and I read that even if you just take the ascorbic acid, it's looking for the other components, therefore depriving your body of the other P factors. And
okay, here, toss me the microphone. I'll throw it around. Thank you for having a very concise question about vitamin C. Okay, why does vitamin C work? Okay, in the intravenous. Okay, and what's better, whole vitamin C or ascorbic acid? The whole vitamin C is better. Okay.
Why do they have effects with the ascorbic acid?
Oh, because it does have a positive chemical effect. Well, not chemical. Let's say an antioxidant effect. It strengthens tissue. And inflammation or oxidation, this is pretty much the tear down process of the body. Does the microphone work? Yeah, if you toss it to me, I'll throw it around. Okay, is that a good microphone? Will it survive me throwing it and somebody dropping it? No?
Do we get to throw it back?
Yeah. Okay, so it works really well. Okay, but know that anytime you have a breakdown of tissue, you're going to create free radicals. And that's an oxidative metabolism or an oxidative process. And by taking care of those free radicals, this is why fresh fruit works. They give up electrons and you can deactivate those free radicals. So you make the inflammation or the teardown process of the tissue more effective. You actually make it work better. Because the body, even in the most severe cancer states, the severe degeneration, it's doing everything it can to rebuild. So you strengthen, and this is what we tell everybody with cancer. Anything you do that's good for the body and helps the immune system is good. Anything you do that's bad for the body that poisons it's bad. It sounds too simple, but that's why we have this. Okay, we have optimal health on one side. There's no symptoms there. We have death on the other side. There's no symptoms there. So anything you do that takes you towards health is good. Anything you do that goes the other direction is bad. So can you have the occasional Cuban cigar with the brandy on the deck? Okay, when you're talking to, yeah, you sure as heck better have fresh fruit and vegetables the next day and not do that on a regular basis. Okay, so you are gonna feel, we're humans. But by gosh, you're not going to be taking blood pressure just when you have a headache because you think that's a sign of high blood pressure. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Okay. Next question, because we've got time for one more. Yes, ma'am.
I want to know what your thoughts are on alkaline water, because your gut's supposed to be acidic. So if you're drinking alkaline water and eating food, how is that good?
Oh, okay, cool. What's the thoughts on alkaline water? Okay, so alkaline water, and this is kind of cool. This is where medical doctors and natural doctors, I'm talking like dyed in the wool, not normal medical doctors like this guy. You as a good example, but man, you're up here, you're like normal. Okay, so what they'll say is it doesn't matter what you eat. You could eat animal products or fruit and vegetables. It's all going to come out of the stomach at the same pH. Okay, and that's true. However, when your body goes through the digestive process, what's left over if you're eating toxic products, like animal or refined products, the residue is acidic, and your body has to alkalinize that. So it's going to take some of, like the best way to alkalinize stuff is calcium. It's a positive ion, it's going to alkalinize the blood. This is why people with very, very acidic diets, acidic medium, they develop osteoporosis. So, because it's an acidic medium. So if people's diets are acidic, okay, you're going to want to alkalinize it, okay, with healthy foods, alkaline water, that's going to be good. You don't want to drink water with food though, because when you're eating food, you start eating by smelling, then your stomach produces this acid. And that acid is specific for whatever you're smelling so you can break it down. So you want to eat food without diluting the acid. The more acid you dilute, the harder it is for your stomach to work. Yeah, then drink, so drink no water a half hour before a meal, during a meal, or a half hour after. And it's got to be healthy water, not distilled. If you're going to detox is okay, but you need good, healthy, mineralized, clean, no fluoride, no chlorine, everything else. And if you have a plant-based diet, you're not going to need it. But if you're very, very sick, it's going to be vital for your body to recover, because most people don't have an organic plant-based diet. Does that make sense? Okay, good. Next week, we're going to have another subject and see how this one works. Did you like this format of this one? Yeah? Okay, good. Thank you very much.